Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show that covers all things marketing. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast gives you the latest marketing news, from what major businesses have planned for the coming year to the newest trends in advertising, from podcasts, digital and streaming, to the old standbys of radio, television, and billboards. Whether you're a marketing agent or a business trying to expand your brand, you've come to the right place. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast starts now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie, and on tonight's episode, we are talking about comedy in marketing. So let me just start off by saying I actually do stand-up comedy on the side. It is one of my hobbies. I absolutely love it. It honestly has been a way for me to express myself and be a little bit creative in a different way than I get to be in every other day of my life, in any other way in my life. Working in marketing, working on this podcast are obviously both creative endeavors, and they take a lot of creative energy. But stand-up comedy and comedy in general is a different force of creativity and a different channel in which you can express yourself through. But the interesting part is, no matter how hard I try to separate the two in my life, doing comedy and doing marketing, they always seem to come back together. Whether it's, promoting a show that I'm a part of and using my marketing skills in that way, or if I'm working on a marketing project and I find a way to bring humor and comedy and that level of engagement into the project. It can definitely be a way to enhance your storylines, definitely get more engagement, and communicate with your audience in a fresh way. Obviously, comedy is also something that can be extremely overused, and it can also go over a lot of people's head, or you always run the risk, especially now with the digital world and digital marketing, you run the risk of offending people or crossing a line that you don't want to cross, or you never intentionally even planned on crossing. It could have been an accident, but you crossed the line. So we're going to talk about a lot of different comedy aspects today and how you can really start to bring in some comedy elements into your marketing and how they will help you be a better marketer and a more successful advertising agent. So we're going to get into all that and more on today's episode of the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie, and I am so excited about today's episode. So just to get started, I would love to remind everybody, please, from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of my brain, from any bottom I have, subscribe to the podcast. It means so much to us. If you just hit that purple button, we promise we'll hold up our end. We will post episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We will talk to you in the comments section. We will talk to you online. We will engage with you however much you want. But please just subscribe to the podcast. It really does help us understand who's listening and what you guys want to listen to more. So it can just be really helpful from a data perspective. And honestly, it just means a whole lot to me if you subscribe. So please definitely just hit that purple button above. Let's get into today's podcast, though. Just to start out, let's talk about what is new in the marketing world. Disney's Pixar's Onward has been banned in multiple Middle East countries due to a lesbian reference. So Disney's Pixar family film Onward has been banned in multiple Middle East markets due to the film's minor reference to a lesbian relationship. In the movie about two teenage elf brothers in a mythical world who embark on a quest for magic, there is a passing reference to an LGBTQ relationship between two secondary characters. The character, a purple cyclops officer named Spectre, voiced by Lana Waithe, has been heralded as Disney's first openly gay character. The only reference to that character's sexuality is with the line, "It's not easy being a new parent. My girlfriend's daughter got me pulling my hair out, okay?" The reference hasn't gone down well with censors in some countries. Sources have confirmed Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia have all banned the film due to the reference. The film was released regionally this past week, is nowhere near to be seen on cinema schedules in those territories. Other Middle East markets such as Bahrain, Lebanon, and Egypt are showing the film. Russia, who have also been known for banning or censoring LGBTQ content, censored the movie Onward scene by changing the word girlfriend to partner, and the local version avoids mentioning the specter's gender. This is all raining a little bit familiar to when last year Russia censored scenes in Rocketman and Avengers Endgame due to the LGBTQ reference. In 2017, Disney's Beauty and the Beast was also banned in markets including Kuwait and Malaysia due to an LGBTQ moment. Russia has slapped the film with a 16+ rating. So this was really interesting from a marketing perspective, especially for Disney, because I think Disney's very aware that they do have to move on and they do have to push forward with how the times are changing, and they always want to stay relevant and stay accurate and stay up with the time. So they saw the importance of adding an LGBTQ character into their movies and not caring if people who were perhaps a little bit more conservative or who just didn't care for that, they didn't care if they cared. They wanted to put this movie out the way they wanted to put it out. However, now, how do they deal with this when a backlash from other countries comes up? What I would love to hear is how you would deal with it if you were a marketer for Disney and if you were marketing the movie Onward. Please let me know in the review down below or reach out through social media. Our second story is that Starbucks has closed their first store due to the coronavirus. Starbucks announced its first store closure due to the corona outbreak on last Friday, after one of its store's partners tested positive for COVID-19. Rosanne Williams, Starbucks Executive Vice President, said in a letter to partners, the coffee giant immediately closed the Starbucks at First and University in Seattle. The Starbucks executive said that the company looks forward to welcoming their customers back very soon once the situation has been dealt with. As of Friday evening last week, the Washington Department of Health reported 79 confirmed coronavirus outbreaks in Washington state, with 58 in King County. So again, another really great example of a large company, just like Disney, but now it's Starbucks, having to deal with something that affects the entire world, but wanting to do it in an appropriate way that does suit their company's values and the brand they want to put forward for their company. Okay, everyone, so we are going to go ahead and take a short break from the podcast, but when we come back, I am going to give you the top 10 strategies for including comedy into your marketing. So stay tuned for that, because you are listening to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and I'll be right back.
Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast covers everything tech. The hottest mobile phones, tablets, games. We review it, rate it, test it. Whether you're Microsoft or Apple, Android or iPhone, we'll give it to you again. Black and white. The Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and on today's episode, we are talking about comedy in marketing. And I'm going to give you right now, we got 10 solid strategies for you to use in your marketing that will incorporate a sense of comedy. Now, a sense of comedy can totally help you with engagement, give your marketing a boost, give your marketing a bit of a fresh start if you don't already use comedy as one of your tools. Basically, I'm just giving you the Phillips head screwdriver of marketing. You can put it in your tool belt. You'll probably use it often, but it is not as important as a wrench. So we are going to get into all of that and more on today's podcast, but what I want to do is break this down into 2 parts. So let's go through the top 5 and then we'll take a break and come back and do the other 5, because I really want to be able to explain each of them to you and give everyone a moment to really just absorb the information, to take a minute and think of their own suggestions or their own ideas for how they could use these techniques in their own marketing. So get your pen and paper out because we're about to get started. So number 1, shock and awe. The most common way shock and awe is used in comedy this is such a basic one. It used to work for me when I was quite young and a quite young comic. You go up there and you kind of look really nice and really sweet, and then you curse the whole time, because then people are like, oh my goodness, no way. And then they laugh because you shocked them with being something funny or something more vulgar. Now, obviously, I'm not promoting anyone to be vulgar in their marketing. Do not start swearing if what you sell is baby socks or something for children, or you're a product or you're a brand that never swears. Do not suddenly start swearing, because 50% of this is also the oh my goodness, I can't believe they just did that. Oh, that's why they did it. It's sort of that shock and awe of, that's so crazy. Oh, I'm so relieved. It's the 50-50 split of those 2 emotions. So what I really want to see you guys do, how I want you to use this strategy, because obviously you're not using it in stand-up comedy, you want to use it in your own marketing, is shock people with something new and then awe them with how you're fixing it. So say that you found out that 90% of all baby socks give babies rashes. Put that fact out there and then go, but ours don't. That's the awe. So you shocked people, you got their attention, and then you relieved them so that they're not just in this heightened state of excitement. Now, obviously, you could also do that with comedy. In your marketing, you could create punchlines and headlines and captions that do the shock and awe release in a funny way. But that totally depends on your product and, again, your brand. I don't want anybody breaking the rules of their brand trying to get this comedy aspect across. But if it fits for your brand, absolutely go forward. So number 2 is be unique. So all the best comics in the world, all the best comedic movies in the world, the reason they're the best is because they did something the other ones weren't doing. And then later other movies followed that copied their style, or other comedians followed that copied their style. A very similar example is Bill Murray. Bill Murray was on the original cast for Saturday Night Live and just did a lot of really funny and original bits and created a very funny and original style. However, so many comedians after him just copied that style until it got old. And then a new comedian would come along or around the same time and create a new style, and then other people would copy them. So it's this ongoing thing of just, if you're the first one there, great, you're going to be remembered to be the first one there. And being the first one there is important because being unique is important in comedy and in marketing. If you can make your baby socks stand out against all the other baby socks, you are doing something right. So you got to find a way to be different, and you have to find a way to be unique enough while still staying true to your brand. Number 3, tell a great story. So something that all comedians do, and again, comedic movies, is that at the heart of every punchline, at the heart of every movie, at the part of every TV show, is that there is a great story there. Friends is a funny show, but there's a great story of, but it's 6 people who truly care about each other. It is still telling a story. It is not 6 people sitting around a table drinking coffee telling jokes nonstop. No, there is a story there. If you listen to stand-up comedians talk, they are telling a story. You can't just say funny things and hope they stick. You need to tell a great story, both with your marketing and your marketing if you're trying to incorporate comedy. So if you started making these baby socks because you read that statistic that 90% of baby socks give babies horrible rashes, then tell that story and tell it in a great way. Don't just write it out on your bio. Write it out in an entertaining and fantastical, grandiose way. Number 4, test before you launch. And this is the idea of, and I'm sure you've heard the cliche of like, Jerry Seinfeld still goes to comedy clubs and just tells his jokes to random audiences. That's because he's testing them. He's not going to bet his Netflix special on new jokes. No, you have to test them and test them and test them, and then you take them to your Netflix special. Sometimes you might only get one chance to do a Netflix special. Do you want to waste it on this one joke that you've never tried before? In the same way that maybe you only got one shot to make this one ad work, test it before you launch it. Make sure it's going to work. Run a diagnostic test. Run an A/B split test. Do whatever you have to do to get that data before it goes live to the public. Number 5, go crazy and big and then pull back. So this is very similar to shock and awe of you want to surprise and then comfort. You want to put them at unease and then put them at ease. But this is a little bit different. With go big, go crazy, and then pull back, what you're doing is sort of almost like a roller coaster. And the going crazy and going big is you chugging along upside when you're right about to hit the peak, and then you hit the peak and you go smashing down. The smashing down is the fun part. That's what people want to do, but you still got to bring them up that track first. You still got to make them go crazy. You got to make them think big, and then go, and by the way, we have 50% off all products. Buy one, get one free sale. We use all sustainable items. Whatever it may be, whatever the juice of your information is, that is what you talk about when you are pulling back. You have their attention. Utilize their attention. Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and take a short break now, but when we come back, I'm going to give you the other 5 strategies that we use to incorporate comedy in our marketing. So stay tuned for that, because you are listening to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and I'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and on today's episode, we are talking about comedy in marketing and how you can incorporate some comedic ideas and comedic strategies into your marketing tool belt. Now, a lot of these ideas might not be ways to help you make your ads funnier, to make your captions funnier, but it's ways to take the same strategies and ideas that comedians and comedic movies and comedic television shows use and take those strategies and use them in your own marketing. It might make your marketing funnier, but it is going to make your marketing more successful either way. So before the break, we went over the top 5 strategies that we use, and just to review, we talked about shock and awe, surprising your audience and then relieving your audience. So put them in a state of being tense and shocked, and then pull back with, oh, I'm so comforted now by this. Number 2, be unique. You have to be different. You have to stand out. There are a million comedians in the world. There are a million soap companies in the world. There are a million flower companies in the world. So if you want to make it, be unique. Number 3, tell a great story. Friends is not about 6 people sitting around drinking coffee. No, it's about 6 people who love each other and take care of each other and tell a great story, but in a funny way. Number 4, test before you launch. If you only have one shot at doing stand-up comedy on a Netflix special, don't waste it by doing a joke you've never tested before, a joke no audience has ever seen before, because what if it's not funny? What if it's only funny to you? In the same way, don't waste your one opportunity to run this ad to reach this new audience if you've never ran a similar ad before, if you're suddenly using a lot more money, or if you're trying something completely different and off-branded. Don't do that unless you test it before you launch it. Number 5, go crazy and then go big and then pull back. So I really like the imagery of this, guys, of you being on a roller coaster. You're going to go up and up and up and up and then hit a peak of up and then come falling down. Now, the falling down is still fun. People like the down part of roller coasters. This isn't when you're putting in your legal stuff. This isn't when you're talking about copyright or anything like that. You're still having fun when you're pulling back, but it's just not the rise of excitement. So now that we are back from our break, we are going to go over the other 5 strategies that you can use to incorporate comedy into your marketing. So again, I encourage you, just take your pen and paper out because we are going to be talking about some serious ideas about comedic marketing. So number 6 is don't take yourself too seriously. Amy Poehler, the queen of comedy herself, said, there is a power in looking silly and not being worried that you do. It's similar to that. Do not paraphrase me. Don't quote me that she said that. What I'm trying to say is I understand that your product is important to you and that you think your product is important to the world. And hey, maybe it is. Maybe you are creating baby socks that are totally going to knock my socks off. But don't take yourself too seriously. Remember that it's okay to laugh. Remember that it's okay to screw up. Because if you show that you're human in your marketing, people are going to respond to that. People are going to want to engage with that. And people are going to want to buy from you and interact with your product because they understand that who you are as a company and who you are as a brand, and you're not going to be so intimidating anymore. Number 7, not every joke gets a laugh. This is so true when it comes to stand-up comedy, or maybe that's just what I've been telling myself over the years. But really, guys, there are some jokes that you say as a setup to bigger and better jokes. They're a lead-up. In the same way that maybe not every ad, not every post, not every video is going to be a huge success. Sometimes it can be a lead-up to another one. Say you are trying to count down to a big release. The first post you do for that countdown, people aren't going to care as much as they're going to care for the actual launch of that product because they're not going to know anything about it yet. They haven't been introduced to it yet. So you always have to be aware that not every joke gets a laugh, just like not every post is going to be your most successful post, and that is perfectly okay. They are building blocks to something bigger and something better. Number 8, dedication leads to success. So almost every stand-up comedian will tell you the same story of how they were so bad at it for so long, and then one day they just became good, and then they started to suck some more, and then they were good again, and then they were bad again. And it's a never-stopping train of trial and success. But the key is, if you want to have the success part, you need to stick with it through the bad parts. You need to fail. You need to try new things and fail at those, but then try other new things and be successful at those. It is a non-stop back and forth train ride that you are going to want to get off every single day, every single hour. But stick with it because dedication does pay off, both in comedy and in marketing. So maybe you've had a bad week. Maybe sales are low. Stick with it. Keep trying and keep pushing because dedication leads to success. Number 9, craft your words carefully. So this is something that is the absolute bow that ties these two concepts together. You can't have one without the other in this circumstance. In marketing, it is so important to craft your words carefully, and in comedy, it is so important to craft your words carefully. And the main thing I want you guys to look out for is don't have ums, don't have ahs, don't take long pauses if you're presenting something in marketing or presenting something in comedy. It is something that you have to pay attention to. It's how can I get my point across? How can I get my joke across using as little words as possible? That's something I need to get better at too, especially when it comes to this podcast. So if anybody has some tips. But what I usually do is I try to rewrite the sentence for a caption in marketing. I try to rewrite it 5 or 6 times and just try to really limit down those words that aren't as important. You know, you highlight the 2 big words, and then you highlight the 3 supporting words, and then you highlight all the words that don't really do anything and could probably be cut out. So I would bargain that might happen for a lot of you, so I would definitely try that exercise out. Finally, number 10, work hard every day. Guys, even if it's Saturday, even if it's Sunday, even if it's Monday and you're in traffic all day and you have a headache and your kids were screaming at you all morning, you still have to work at your marketing. Marketing is one of those businesses that doesn't stop. It is a part of your company that is never going to stop. You are never going to stop marketing. You could be fully sold out of a product for a month. You still need to promote that product so that when it comes back next month, you can keep on that momentum. It never gets to stop, so you never get to stop working. And that can seem like a real bummer, but again, dedication leads to success. So push, baby, push, because I know you can do this. Okay, everyone, we will be right back after this break. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and I'll be right back.
Are you a business owner? Someone interested in the latest news that might affect your business? Then check out the GSMC Business News Podcast, a show dedicated to keeping you up to date on all things concerning business, technology, and the stock market. Get a head start on the day as we keep you updated on the latest goings-on Wall Street, money, jobs, and technology. The GSMC Business News Podcast has you covered.
And welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and on today's episode of the podcast, we are talking about comedic marketing and how you can incorporate some comedic strategies into your marketing. So right now, what I would love to do is talk to you about 10 commercials, 10 companies that really use the strategies we've talked about on this podcast to boost up their marketing and create some really funny examples. So let's start with number 1, Orbit Gum, cleaning your dirty mouth. So this was set the scene for you. This husband is clearly cheating on his wife with the receptionist or with a business partner. The wife finds out, goes to his office, she's all upset. But instead of swearing, she says things like, "You kumquat," and "shut the front door." The spokesperson for Orbit Gum pops up and says, "Looks like you've been cleaning your dirty mouth with Orbit Gum." This was a really great way to use shock and awe and also not take yourself too seriously. You sell gum. You understand that it's a mundane product that everybody uses. Let's find a way to be a little silly with it. Let's find a way to have fun with it. And the shock of hearing a grown woman say kumquat at her husband and as he is cheating on her is so freaking funny, you guys. Number 2, Clorox bleachable moments, the Bachelorette parody. So this one's always topical because people are always talking about the Bachelor or the Bachelorette. And it was the idea of these guys are, talking about the competition, how they can't wait to meet the Bachelorette. And then she comes around the corner with one of the other guys wearing an all-white outfit. And she says, "Oh, Jason here was just showing me the grounds." "Yeah, I was just showing her the grounds," says Jason. As the two walk away, her entire backside is covered with green grass stains. Clorox then advertises that is a bleachable moment. Guys, that's hilarious. Again, it is a great example of being unique, being that shock and awe, and also telling a great story. That one really does have a beginning, middle, and an end. You are learning about The Bachelor, you're introduced to a problem, and then you find out new information at the end that's pretty funny. So again, they're really using those strategies. Number 3, Snickers. You're not you when you're hungry with Betty White. Oh my goodness. Okay, so first of all, this commercial turned 10 years old this year at the Super Bowl, which I could not be happier about. I was actually really excited for the Super Bowl. I don't know how many people watched our Super Bowl countdown of all the commercials, but I was really excited because I thought Snickers would do like a revival of this commercial. They didn't, and that's okay. Maybe we'll get one in a few more years, but I think these commercials, the "You're not you when you're hungry," are just so freaking funny. They're so great for marketing, and they're just perfect examples of all the strategies we talked about. Number 4, Sour Patch Kids. First they're sour, then they're sweet. This commercial showed a girl all dressed up at a party, and she's going to go talk to the guy that she's always wanted to talk to. Then the Sour Patch Kids are sawing away at her heel. She trips and falls into a kiddie pool. She's so upset. She's so mad at the Sour Patch Kids. But then they put cucumber peels on her eyes, and suddenly she's like, "Oh no, now I'm at the spa, and I'm very relaxed. Thank you, Sour Patch Kids." It is so ridiculous. It is so over the top. It is so going big, going huge, and then taking it back. The taking it back part was still fun. The downfall was still fun, but it was the rise. It was the escalation of what was going to happen next. It was the suspense that they created with that. They then also started creating a brand, same with Snickers, of first they're sour, now they're sweet, and the "You're not you when you're hungry" commercials of we can do multiple iterations of this one catchphrase, which is also huge in comedy for callbacks and for brand consistency. But we'll talk all about that more later. Number 5, the Dorito Time Machine. So this showed, it was actually a pretty famous comedian walking down the street. A little kid says, "Hey, Billy," I think the guy's name is, "want to try out my time machine? It runs on Doritos." The grown man crawls inside this little boy's time machine made out of cardboard, hands him the Doritos underneath, and says, "Okay, start her up." He then starts shaking it to make it seem like it's working. The time's flying by. Then suddenly this old man comes out and says, "Get off my lawn." So the little boy hightails it out of there, and the old man is suddenly standing outside of the time machine when the comedian walks out to see that it looks like he has time traveled. So silly, so cute, and just so not taking themselves seriously and having fun with it. Number 6, nationwide Mindy Kaling is invisible. So this is a great example of using resources if you have them. Obviously, you do not have access to Mindy Kaling. If you do, congrats on winning the lottery. But Nationwide did a commercial where is Mindy Kaling invisible. So she goes about her day, and she starts noticing that people don't notice her. So she's like, "Oh my goodness, free pass, I can do whatever I want." So she does. She walks around naked, she swears, she cusses, she cuts in line, all these things, until the very end when she goes to kiss Matt Damon, and he says, "I can see you. You're really here. You're not invisible anymore." And it was all to show that Nationwide will never treat you like you're invisible. And guys, this, if anything, is the go big, go huge, and then pull back. They went huge. They got bigger and bigger about the things she could do if she was invisible. And then they pulled back at the end to say, wait, she's not, and neither are you. So they proved their point by using this really fun comedy technique. Number 7, Geico Hump Day. Just for the shareability alone on this commercial, of the camel walking through the office going, hey, you know what day it is? Hey, you know what day it is? You know what day it is? Hump day! I remember kids saying that in the hallways at school. People loved that commercial. There was just a generic likability to it that really allowed it to be shareable and allowed people to get on board with the humor because it was so simple and so easy. And it really does take advantage of a lot of the techniques that we discussed. Google TV, Kevin Bacon's commercial where Kevin Bacon is Kevin Bacon's #1 fan. So this shows a man at his house using Google TV to watch Kevin Bacon movies. He then shows you his memorabilia of stuff from Kevin Bacon's home and Kevin Bacon's movies, props from the film, photos of them together. And in all reality, the person showing you around is Kevin Bacon. It was just really funny and a great way to represent all the strategies we've talked about and sort of just slip in a product placement where people didn't even notice because they were too busy focused on Kevin Bacon being Kevin Bacon's #1 fan. Number 9, an old one, but a classic. I'm a Mac and I'm a PC. People loved these commercials featuring Justin Long and another actor. I'm so sorry, I do not know who the other actor was. Just talking about being a Mac and being a PC, showing that one was a cool young guy and one wasn't. It was a great way for Mac to show its new product and just to get to talk about their product in a very open and honest way. They weren't saying anything that was wrong. They weren't saying anything that was slander. They were just being honest, but in the way that they wanted you to see. Number 10, and by far my actual favorite, and I really encourage everyone to go look it up because it really is just so funny. Number 10, Virgin Mobile, Doug Pitt. So this commercial showed Doug Pitt just living his life as a normal guy doing normal guy things. Virgin Mobile thought that he should get to live in a similar Hollywood light as Brad Pitt. So if you shared the commercial, if you interacted with the contest, Doug Pitt got a little bit closer to being a Hollywood star. And isn't that what we all want? We all just want Doug to win. Okay, everyone, we are going to go ahead and take a short break from the podcast, but we will be right back with more of the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jakewish, and I'll be right back.
Are you looking for a podcast that gives you all of the latest news from the world of finance? Then check out the GSMC Financial News Podcast. We'll delve into the ups and downs of the stock market, changes in the economy, and news from the world of real estate and technology. From breaking news on the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, or the overseas market, to updates on the bond market, if there's money to be made, we'll cover it on the GSMC Financial News Podcast.
And welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jakewish, and on today's podcast, we have talked a lot about comedic marketing and how you can use some of those strategies to really produce wonderful products and boost your engagement and give your marketing a brand new, fresh look using comedy. So we talked about some strategies you can use. Just to review, those strategies were: shock and awe. Be unique. Tell a great story. Test before you launch. Go crazy and big and then pull back. Don't take yourself too seriously. Not every joke gets a laugh. Dedication leads to success, and craft your words carefully. And the most important one is work every day. You get home, you're tired. You don't want to do any more work, but your side business needs you to. Your marketing needs you to. You never get to stop marketing. There is no slow season. It is always push, baby, push, so you gotta push. Now what I'd love to do is I have 5 marketing principles for you based on stand-up comedy that I really think can help you improve your marketing campaigns. So number 1, I say it all the time, bear with me, brand consistency. Brand consistency is so important with, 1, stand-up comedy. Jerry Seinfeld tells the same jokes. Chris Farley told the same jokes. Jim Carrey acts the same way in all of his stuff, unless he doesn't in some of his more serious stuff. But in his comedic stuff, he plays the same character. It's basically always just Ace Ventura. Anyways, be consistent with something that works. Find what works for you and work it hard. It can be funny, and if it's funny, work that angle. Make sure everyone knows how funny your comedy is and how funny your brand can be and how you don't take yourself seriously all the time, and how it can be fun to have a laugh at soap if you find a way to do that. So number 2 is callbacks. So this can be a throwback Thursday of types, if you will, of sort of, remember when we did this? Wasn't that hilarious? Now we're doing this instead. It can be a really great way just to remind people how long you've been a part of their lives and how important of an asset you truly are. Number 3, yes and. All right, technically this wasn't a stand-up comedy. This is improv. But you get what I'm saying. Yes and this idea. Don't just one word your customers. Yes, and also we sell this. Yes, that's on sale, and also you can buy this. Yes, that's out of stock, but you can buy this instead. Never just end the conversation. No one wording. Everything has to be more. There's always more to you. Number 4, heckler management. People are going to say stuff about you that you don't like. People who you don't like are going to support your brand, and you won't like that. Hecklers are on the internet. Hecklers are in your store. Hecklers are in the audience when you're doing stand-up comedy. You need to learn how to manage them. You need to learn how to take what they're saying, and then use it for good. Use it to improve your marketing. Use it as not a crutch to lean on, but a ladder to climb. They're saying you're bad at this. Maybe you are. Check it out and learn from it. Number 5, the rule of 3. This is straight up just a comedy thing, guys, but it's going to work for your marketing. Sometimes, and you'll start noticing this more and more, comedians will say a joke where they say, and then this happened, and then that happened, and then this happened, and that third thing is always going to be the funny part. The 2 things completely mundane you can check out. But the third part is suddenly that shock and awe of, oh my goodness, and then that happened? That's hilarious. It's the surprise, it's the build-up, it's the roller coaster. And that is a great tool that you can use in your own marketing. Okay, everyone, that is it for today's podcast. Thank you so much for listening to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and I will see you next time.
You've been listening to the GSMC Marketing News Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to any podcast app, and you'll find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news, you'll find it all on the GSMC Podcast Network. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.